Hi, I'm Andrew Lowndes from Pressalit from the sales office in the United Kingdom, and I have a talk entitled Let's Make Room for Dignity. Before I introduce myself, I want to go over 3 things that you will learn today. The first thing you'll learn today is the experience people with complex needs have when they visit public toilets. And the reason why it's important to learn about the experience they have is so that we can better meet the challenges that they face. And in that context, we're going to talk about this picture. The second thing you're going to learn about is how good bathroom design can meet even the most challenging of requirements. The reason it's important to learn about good bathroom design is so that we can accommodate all visitors and avoid the mistakes that make facilities unhygienic, unsafe, or just impossible to use. And in this context, we're going to talk about this picture. And the third thing you'll learn today is how to make room for dignity in the future. The reason why it's important to learn about making room for dignity in the future is so that we can provide relevant and up-to-date solutions for the modern world. And in this context, I'm going to talk about some modern technology. So if you've not met me before, I should remind you my name is Andrew Lowndes, and I manage the sales operations for Pressalit in the UK. I've worked for Pressalit for about 20 years, introducing the company's design principles and product arrangements on a number of projects. And at Pressalit, I guess we're best known for providing bathroom and kitchen solutions for healthcare and education schemes. But for the last 15 years or so, we've also been at the forefront of raising the profile of changing places with architects and other project stakeholders through an educational programme of seminars approved by the Royal Institute of British Architects. So what is the experience of people with complex needs when they visit public toilets? Remember, we were looking at this number. It might shock you to learn that 97% of people with profound disabilities who require help changing and toileting have faced the indignity of being changed on the floor of a public toilet. This is scandalous in today's day and age. Which of us would willingly lay loved ones on the floor of a toilet where their head will be close to the toilet bowl, risking contact with all sorts of infection? And not only this, but why are we asking mums and dads and carers to put their own health and safety at risk, with at best extremely tight and uncomfortable spaces in which to work and operate? You see, in many countries, the problem with standard accessible toilets is they only really provide enough space and equipment for people who are independent and can manage without help and assistance. This man, for example, has just about enough room to squeeze his wheelchair alongside the toilet, and we can see he has sufficient upper body strength to transfer from his chair into the toilet by himself. But the room size and shape will cause any carer to struggle helping another person. They're very likely to put themselves in an awkward position and risk back strain and injury. Let's hear what Dr. Josie Badger has to say about the use of accessible toilets. Josie's from Pittsburgh in the US.
So my name is Dr. Josie Badger, and I am from the Pittsburgh region, and I have a really rare disease called congenital myasthenic syndrome. So every day I have to determine whether my desire to spend my energy to navigate maybe accessible places, maybe not, whether it's worth my spoons, or whether I'd rather stay at home where I know that bathrooms are going to be accessible, that I know that I can get around, and I don't have to use that energy just to use a restroom. As an individual with a disability, I think that we should have the life that everyone else has. When the right accommodations are not available in public restrooms, I do have to make the decision on whether to partake in what everyone else is doing of getting dinner, to get a drink, or not. And it's always hard to decide on whether to do life like everyone else with the risk of not being able to use the restrooms like everyone else can, or whether I need to take a step back and maybe not go out that day. And so we need to change the mindset of why are we not seeing people with disabilities in our society? It's not because we don't exist, it's because we can't be fully included.
In the UK, the realisation that standard accessible toilets offer only limited access has been the concern of campaigners and advocacy groups for some time now. In 2006, the Changing Places campaign started with the aim of highlighting the need for suitable toilet facilities for people with profound physical and learning disabilities. These facilities are intended not solely for those that need the help and assistance, but just as importantly for the mums and dads and carers who provide that help. The campaign has drawn up some recommendations for how a Changing Places should look and what sort of extra equipment should be included. In this Changing Places example, you can see the recommended height adjustable shower and changing table, the height adjustable sink and the ceiling hoist for transferring and moving people around the room. You can also see that the toilet has been positioned away from the corner to provide access on both sides. To date, there are approximately 1,600 Changing Places in the UK, found in all manner of buildings and locations, ranging from shopping centres, amusement parks, airports, motorway service areas, hospitals, town halls, and a lot of Premier League football clubs now have Changing Places toilets. And the good news is that Changing Places is now very much a global movement. Similar and sometimes alternatively named facilities can also be found in other countries, such as Germany, France, Australia, Canada, and the US. So how can good bathroom design meet more general requirements? Do you remember this picture? We could say you had just one job to do, provide a ramp, but clearly this won't work. If we were being charitable, I guess, we might say that the builders didn't know who was going to use the ramp. Nevertheless, there's a clear disconnect between the intended use of this building feature, carefully designed we assume, and the mistake that was delivered. 90% of this ramp is useful, but it's the 10% which is inaccessible that makes a whole lot effectively useless. The same problem can arise in bathroom design. Sometimes it's the glaringly obvious mistakes, but it can also be the not so straightforward issues that can render a bathroom unusable and perhaps lead to users having to ask for help needlessly, and so we're denying their chance of doing things independently. So here I've put together a list of 6 handy tips or takeaways that can be used to save a designer's blushes. This isn't an exhaustive list, by the way. I dare say you might be able to think of your own things to add, but I think it's a good start at least. Number 1, and this might be classed as glaringly obvious, but is the bathroom door wide enough, and crucially all doors en route to the bathroom wide enough for wheelchairs and mobility equipment? There will be recommendations for door widths in different building codes and regulations, but generally speaking, the door should be at least 1 metre wide. But we can never assume too much. It's always better to check things out and ask questions wherever we can. Number 2, is there space for a clear turning circle in front of everything that needs to be used? As a general rule of thumb, designers tend to allow at least 1500 millimeters for wheelchairs, although 1800 would be more preferable if at all possible. And in some instances, we have to allow up to about 2100 millimeters for larger, more specialist equipment. For mobile hoists and lifting aids, we tend to use up to 2300 millimeters. So number 3, think about a working triangle within the room. Usually the concept of a working triangle is employed in kitchen design, but it can also be applied to achieve good results with bathroom layouts. In a bathroom, the triangle will apply to the space between the toilet, the basin and the shower. It needs to be big enough to accommodate mobility equipment and sometimes carers helping out, but not so large or elongated as to present a long journey or distance for people with limited mobility. Sometimes we see that long journey or distance between the shower and the toilet. Generally, it's much better if this working triangle is more equilateral in shape rather than elongated. Number 4, more often than not, showers and toilets are positioned near corners in bathrooms. This usually means that access space is limited only to one side, and therefore the toilet or the shower will be predominantly handed left or right-sided. Wherever possible, this handedness should be consistent in the same room, not left on the toilet and right on the shower. Sometimes we see this inconsistency, especially with refurbished bathrooms, and it's not too hard to see why, as often it's the plumbing that's governing the position of different bathroom elements rather than any consideration for user-friendliness or accessibility. Number 5, the consensus of opinion with accessible bathroom designers tends to be that we provide hand washing within reach of the toilet. This seems fair enough. After all, from a hygiene point of view, everyone should wash his or her hands after using the toilet. If the bathroom sink is near enough to the toilet, then people with limited mobility will be able to wash their hands whilst they're still seated on the toilet. And then with clean hands, they can get up and get dressed, perhaps transfer back into a wheelchair, or maybe pick up some walking sticks. Number 6. Lastly, not everyone is independent or can maintain their independence throughout the day, every day. Earlier we heard Josie saying she might have to consider whether she has enough spoons for a particular task or activity. She was referring to whether she might have enough energy for certain things. It might be that people can do certain tasks when they have energy and strength, but will require help when they get tired or when a condition or disease gets progressively worse. Unless we know otherwise, we should always aim to provide enough space in the bathroom for carers and assistants to provide help. So how can we make room for dignity in the future? In today's fast-paced world, most of us expect to be able to do things quickly, without needless hassle. Perhaps, maybe using one of these things. Things have never been so easy, it seems, but imagine trying to plan that family trip someplace, knowing that you will need to check whether things are accessible, and needing to know ahead of time that toilet visits could even be possible. 95% of people planning trips with someone who is disabled will try to find out access information before they visit a place. And 47% will assume that place is inaccessible, presumably choosing to go elsewhere, if they can't be completely certain beforehand. Surely the world would be a much better place if we could provide that certainty that a destination is welcoming to everyone, especially to people with complex needs and to their families and helpers. Expecting certain standards and finding those standards delivered is what most of us take for granted after all. So imagine a relaxing and safe bathroom fully equipped with everything that makes life easier and more manageable, available within a reasonable driving distance wherever you happen to be, and easy to locate with an app on your phone. This bathroom would definitely make the world so much more accessible. It would empower families and more likely equip them to enjoy the same opportunities that we all take for granted. So today, I'm really pleased to offer you a glimpse of the future. I'm pleased to introduce Pressalit Spaces, not just an accessible toilet, but a complete solution that fully adapts to the needs of users and their helpers, and not the other way around. We will introduce spaces to the Danish market first, where we will include an adult-sized, height-adjustable shower and changing table, so that people can be changed in comfort and not suffer the indignity of being changed on the floor. We'll also include a height-adjustable toilet and wash basin, so standing or seated wheelchair users can find a comfortable working height. and there will be a ceiling hoist to transfer and move people around more easily. Spaces will have a comfortable and calming interior with acoustic panels that help minimize noise and temperature-controlled heating, so it's never too hot and never too cold. Access to spaces in Denmark will be to a limited number of approved registered users who have downloaded the Spaces app. The door key will be found on the app along with a map detailing where every Spaces toilet is located, and also there will be a reporting feature that can give the opportunity to provide feedback. So Pressalit Spaces is a turnkey plug-and-play solution that simply requires a hard standing on the ground and services to connect to. Spaces bathrooms are ideal for roadside locations, city centres, transportation hubs, public venues and leisure attractions. Pressalit Spaces plays a great part in what we mean by let's make room for dignity. So thank you for your attention. I hope we've managed to inspire you with this brief talk and got you thinking a little bit more about how bathroom accessibility can impact the quality of life of so many people. Please do remember to get in touch if you have any questions.